And I remember seeing you then in Washington. And have you found that anything effective comes from these things?
Well, I think they say that it's the squeaky hinge that gets the grease, and the blacks would still be shuffling around picking peanuts and dying and starving. Of course, they haven't been all that much improved. If they hadn't made that noise, if they hadn't made that racket, somewhere there's some person out there that tells us, just be quiet, be calm, everything will right itself, and everybody will get their just desserts, but it never happens.
It'll all come out right.
It never happens. People, if they just sit back and wait for white America to do something on their behalf, to recognize their rights as a people, to recognize the sovereign rights of, say, Indians, as a separate people, as a separate political, cultural entity within the confines of the United States, nothing's going to happen. The Indians have to shuffle. And
we will meet some in a moment. We have a message from our local stations. We should take it right now. Be right back. Sorry. We've just been joined by 4 gentlemen. Let me introduce them to you. Mervyn Wright, who is Pyramid Lake Paiute councilman from Nevada, on my far right. Dennis Limberhand, Northern Cheyenne councilman from Wyoming. Dr. Wally Heath, project director for the Lummi tribe. And Sam Kagi, over here, who is councilman of the Lummis. The situation in a lot of Indian... The crux of this is that Indian land is being threatened all over the U.S. Outside industries try to come in and set up shop on reservations. They would pollute the air and water, always, it seems, to say nothing of wrecking the land. And strip mining is one of the greatest of these threats. The Lummis have somehow avoided this fate, although it almost happened to them. The Northern Cheyennes and the Paiutes are threatened with it right now. And we have a film which spells this out pretty clearly. We'll get into that shortly. Let me ask Sam first. How did the Lummis manage to avoid this disaster?
I think just the fact that the industries that wanted to come in, take mining, not so much coal, but magnesium oxide, and the promises that they would be a sort of a heaven-sent savior to the Lummi people. With a little research, we found out there were a polluting industry, and their byproducts were not at all usable in any way, shape, or form. And I think what the Lummi people were looking for when we started was something that would be compatible to our own culture. And we found this in the fish farming idea that sprung up out of nowhere and developed to what we have today.
It's an incredible thing. I don't know how many know the word aquaculture, but what the Lummis do now is farm the sea, in effect. They build a sensational dike that one engineer told them would not work, and you, at the very lowest tide, managed to build this thing and have a booming business going in farming the sea, the way the ancient Hawaiians used to do, I guess. And we have a film that shows this project that you're talking about. Can you tell us about that? Do we roll that? And Dr. Heath, right? Will you tell us what we're going to look for in the film, what we're going to see? We narrate it as we roll it.
I think the theme really is that this was probably the first time in American history that government agencies, namely Office of Economic Opportunity and Economic Development Administration, gave money directly to a tribe in large amounts, on the order of $2 million, really sticking their necks out. And a few key administrators, like Secretary Podesta and Jim Wilson in OEO, allowed the tribe to build a very expensive dike with a lot of risk and said, okay, sink or swim. And they swam very well. The Lummi Indians are one of the many Northwest tribes whose culture has been close to the sea. They're expert fishermen, but now they're growing fish. Here you see seed oysters under a microscope. They have the first oyster hatchery in the Northwest. They prepare seed for sale, as you see here, or they grow it themselves in a tray, a very much more modern way of doing it. This is the Lummi Indian oyster hatchery. It's built on the Indian longhouse design using Indian culture, modifications to let the light in through plastic surfaces. The assistant director of this is a Lummi who started out as a carpenter and is now one of the experts in this field. From the air you see the beginning of the dike, which the Lummis built themselves. They ended up purchasing about 10 trucks in the process. Built 3 miles of dike between the tides, a very difficult and risky thing to do. But as a result of this enterprise, they branched out into other things such as home building. They built 40 houses on their own in 6 months. First class, and they're now going to build 60 more, eventually 400 homes. Here is the sea pond, 700 acres, a 3-mile dike, and you can see the plankton bloom inside, which is food for the oysters. Incredible. Which gives you some idea. There is no other sea farm of this kind, and there are about 75 jobs. 90% of the workforce is Indian, and eventually it will be 100% Indian.
Yeah, not all. Gee, that's impressive. Not all Indians are so lucky to come up with a solution to their problems like this. And Mervyn Wright is a Paiute from Nevada, I guess you say. And they've got a tremendous problem with their water rights. What is it?
So if you want to know my aspect of Indian water rights, is that what this means when the Supreme Court denied to take the case was that they will put this thing back into to Nevada, who is the ultimate enemy of Indian tribes. And yet we have to contend with the courts to feel that we,
What about your senators?
I think we have good, strong representation as far as senators. Our own, and of course, if you want to go in depth, I think that Senator Kennedy and Tunney went to bat for the tribes, also for others too.
What we will move to, we'll show you how the descending order of how these problems spiral downward. We'll have a message. We'll be right back. I had several distressed phone calls a few months back saying you must come out to Lame Deer. The Cheyenne Reservation is threatened with disaster. I couldn't go then, and I don't know what happened there. But anyway, Dennis Limberhand is here right now. Is it true that something like, you're from Lame Deer, you're from the Cheyenne Reservation. Is it true that something like half the reservation has been given away?
Well, not exactly given away. About 55% of our reservation is under coal company control.
Coal company.
Right.
Well, do the Indians have the right to that land, or don't they?
Well, we think we do. That prompted our tribal council into taking action against the United States government. We asked the Bureau of Indian Affairs to declare all permits and leases null and void.
Is that treaty land?
I believe it is, yeah. Congressional order reservation.
Has strip mining started there?
Well, not on the reservation, but adjoining the reservation, there's a lot of strip mining.
Yeah.
On north, south, and east and west of us, there's strip mining.
Are some of the people for that?
Well, known my Indian people, I'd say no. They live off the land. They respect the land for what it is.
As I understand, the problem it always is that they need money immediately, and it's tempting for them to say, well, let's get some money quick from the coal companies, and because they can't afford to wait a year or two for a better deal. And often, correct me if I'm wrong, they're shafted by the fact that they accept money now because they're worried about paying next month's rent. And the power companies have been more than willing to take advantage of this.
What Dennis is saying is that it's people like you that can give me $100 to have a dinner with you, and maybe we'll go out and have a good time.
And it's
what
tempting
the
to
essence,
want that.
what the essence is really that this land is there. It's reservation land. This is all we have left.
And it goes back to the old quote.
I don't like it's been raped. It's been raped, and getting back to water rights. I think everything's been taken away from the tribe. We're trying to maintain what we have left.
Excuse me, I got to get this film clip in right now. Would you tell us, Dennis, what we're going to see in this film clip? It's about strip mining, and well, why don't we just roll it, and then we can go back to where we were.